It's gonna mess with my hair, man.
You're gonna leave your glasses on.
Oh wait,
for
sorry.
this.
Yeah,
I was gonna say. Where did Matt go?
I don't know. Do I
Who
need
is
these
this?
to see?
I'm gonna say it
look like
again.
an intellectual
you look like
Oni?
You look like a Tekken character. Like a customized Tekken character.
I'm having an exceptionally good time with it because of the fact that it's not a mechanic that's required in previous FromSoft games.
Yeah.
So like, to be challenged to do that is something that's so fulfilling for me because I'm terrible at like timing like parries and counters and stuff. But this game's like it's like the lifeblood of combat. It's all about like looking at an attack, paying like actual attention, and then just timing like guard, guard, guard. I really like that because of the fact that it, you know, like I finally feel like I understand it. Like it's almost kind of transferred to other like games that are played nowadays too.
Yeah, like I would love to go back and play more like fighting games or something.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the with one of these bosses where I had like my like Daigo like Evo moment where I'm just like parry, 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 death blow, and then just finish him off, and you're like, I feel so powerful right now.
Every enemy is Justin Wong.
And it's weird because like compared to Dark Souls or other From games where I think they give you more options initially for like how to play. Like you said, I'm going to play a rogue or I'm going to play like a shield guy. Like this game kind of like demands that you play it more on its terms, and it's like you have to learn how to parry. You have to learn how to.
You're
do
playing
these
a
moves.
character.
You're playing
not making something.
Yeah, you're playing a very specific character, and I was originally worried that was going to be more limiting or like I wasn't going to like it as much, but I'm really enjoying that it's forcing me to like learn its systems in a way that I feel like Dark Souls kind of let me get away sometimes with like not having to learn that stuff.
Right. It makes the whole experience that much more focused, and I think that's the thing that's that's very refreshing about the game is that it's very direct compared to like something like Dark Souls. Like the storytelling is way more direct. The fact that you're playing as a character who has these very specific abilities that you have to master is very direct about the game. Like it's a lot more tailored in that regard. Not that to say that any of the other games from FromSoft are not tailored in any regard, but just the fact that like this is the way that we want you to play the game. And this is what the story that we're trying to tell is something that comes across more in this that's just so different and so much more compelling. For me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, granted, I've only played like a lot of Bloodborne. That's kind of my experience with these, you know, FromSoft's games. But Sekiro, as a result, it just comes across so refreshing because of that.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say I really like that. We talking a lot about how you have to parry to fight the bosses.
Yeah.
I like how the idea of playing that character who is more of a stealth action, sneaky type of guy even goes out into when you're dealing with regular enemies, where I feel like I'm getting rewarded much better for going out and sneaking around and not being seen and taking everyone out without getting caught, which is a thing that you don't do in almost any Souls game almost.
Yeah.
Like you get like a backstab off on someone, but then all of a sudden everyone turns and looks at you. Here I can make my way through an entire group of enemies without being seen, and there are a lot of abilities to help me with that.
Yeah. Just like the mobility and your options, like that is where the game does, I feel like, present more options. Is like and you have like a more specific set of tools, but there's like more ways to use those tools, I feel like. So this is a game that I'm on my second playthrough, and I've been like, not quite speedrunning it, but kind of like going through it really quickly and figuring out like, there are always like 4 to 5 different paths to like one location of like, you know, you can go like grapple up and like run on the rooftop, so you can go like straight forward, or you can go like shimmy on the ledge to the left, and there's all this variation in how you approach each combat area, you know, because you can just like run in and have a sword fight, or you can be like, I'm gonna try sneaking around, I'm gonna try stealthing everybody, I'm gonna take out that big guy first. It feels like they give you a space and let you like really explore that like combat space in a way that like Dark Souls, it was a little more straightforward, where you're like, I have to go here, and this guy's gonna jump out from behind, and then I'm gonna like, you know, kill him, and then I'm gonna kind of keep moving forward. Like you're more mobile, and I think that is where the game's like variety comes from, and it makes like playing it a second time really satisfying, because I'm like, I'm gonna take this alternate path, and I'm gonna go this way, and I'm gonna like stealth kill that guy, or this time I'm gonna try and fight him, and I find that like really rewarding about the game.
Yeah, just to have options. With something that has such a high difficulty and such like high sort of ceiling to learn from, or try to learn and understand its mechanics, it's great that you have just several ways you can go about a situation at all times.
Yeah.
You know, like sure, I want to practice combat, but then like, no, I want to stealth it this time. I want to think about how I can maybe try to explore the environment a bit, maybe take a bit more advantage of the different paths that are presented to you, because there's a lot more, there's a lot of different paths to take. Like the levels are designed more openly, not just like a linear path you take, like, oh, I gotta kill this enemy and this enemy, oh, you know, like you're still killing enemies, but you're like, okay, I can approach from up here, and then like stealth kill them down here, and then like look to that dude, he won't notice me, and then just go from there. It's nice to have options after a while, because especially when you're, you know, in like a Dark Souls game, where you're just beating your head against the wall trying to master being able to like get through a particular section.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that this game I think does really well. And the other Dark Souls, and like Bloodborne did that really well, where it had multiple areas, like optional areas, so you can completely ignore it. This game, I think only one area is like actually optional. The rest of it you have to do, but there is a point in the game where it kind of opens up and it lets you go in all these different directions, like, and you can kind of pick the order you want. And I did notice that actually changes the way the game works. Like there's this 2 later game areas where if you go and you fight this boss, and then if you go do the other area, there will be a optional second boss that shows up, specifically because you killed that boss, and you have to fight that boss to progress. And I was like, but I never did that. I went and did the other area first, and then I went back and killed that first boss. So that other boss showed up as an optional boss later. Like I could go back and fight him if I wanted to, but I didn't have to beat him the way that other people, like it basically changed whether that boss was optional or not, depending on which order you did things in.
Yeah.
And then, and transversely, if you like, there would be one area that added these like extra enemies because I did this one thing first. So like kind of poking at like where the game, how the game changes depending on what you do and like which choices you make first and like what paths you go down. Like it eventually does funnel into this, you know, like you kind of have to do everything, but the decisions you make along the way and where you go, you don't even realize they are decisions, but it does change the way the game works. And I think that is maybe my favorite part about the game. And it, like Bloodborne did that a little bit with some areas. Like there was this one area in Bloodborne where you would, depending whether you beat a boss first, it would change that area tonight and some of the enemies would be harder. But this takes it to like a whole other level that I think is like really, really cool.
Yeah. See, I like how it's, like you're saying, it's tied into how the narrative can actually play out, but I also like, when we all came back after like playing for a little bit, we'd all have different stories like, oh, I went off this way, and I went and I saw this guy, but then like you went off and saw someone else completely different. And it's not just the narrative in the game that's different, but also people who are playing its kind of experience, because it opens up like 5 different paths that you can take. And they all eventually lead to the same thing, which is kind of cool.
So like, compared to other From games, like where would this stack for you? Like,
for me?
Yeah, like where would you put it?
I think it might be one of my favorites because it's got I've got that stealth action bias.
Okay.
So like, I like the fact that I can sneak around and there's a lot more kind of tactical thinking I can apply to it besides just, I'm going to address this enemy, fight it, and then move on to the next one, which I enjoy a lot. and I wouldn't knock in any way, but I love the fact that I can stealth around and feel really cool just taking dudes out without their friends knowing and that kind of thing. I enjoy it. I like it a lot. It's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, I'd probably put it. My favorite Soulsborne game, I guess, is Bloodborne. And a lot of that has to do with like the aesthetic of that game. Is just like I absolutely love that sort of like gothic Cthulhu horror. I think this game's probably got my favorite combat of any FromSoftware game. It feels so refined in like how it wants you to play and like what you have to do in that parry system. Like it feels so good to play. It's not like I don't want to say the other combat's bad, or it's just like it's a little more like sloppy, a little more imprecise, and I think it actually like works for those games very well, but there's like a precision to like the rhythm of like the fights in this game.
There's a cadence to it.
Yeah, it's like it's really, really good. So it's hard to say whether this like beats Bloodborne, because I do love that aesthetic so much, but something about like the actual combat of playing in this game, I think it's maybe my new favorite.
Yeah, I agree too, man. Like Sekiro, like granted, you know, I beat Bloodborne. I've, you know, gotten a decent chunk into Dark Souls, but like Sekiro is something I think I have my own biases in that same way too.
Yeah.
Like I like really like stealth action stuff. I love like ninjas and like samurai films, Kurosawa stuff, and I just love all the different aspects of like how this game functions, what it takes with like, you know, putting you in sort of like, you know, like a fictionalized version of like, you know, like ancient Japan and stuff, which is like that's cool and interesting in and of itself. It's refreshing, like seeing FromSoft's like take on history that's still kind of grounded within something. But then just the combat, like I just keep wanting to reiterate just how fantastic, how like the amount of like reward I feel after like beating a really hard boss in Sekiro is tremendous. Like more so than anything I feel like I've ever felt in Bloodborne. You know, Bloodborne's a fantastic game with its boss fights, but just like how everything in Sekiro, everything in its combat feels like just like an uphill battle. Because you're just trying to like whittle away this, trying to get this guy's posture up there. And sometimes it starts going down and you feel like you're losing all your progress and it just feels hopeless, bleak. You feel almost despair because you're like, how can I do this? How can I penetrate this? How can I like beat this boss? But once you get it, you just start doing things perfectly and you start like surrendering any of that urgency that you had, you know, in your first initial couple tries when you're just trying to understand how combat works. And you're just like doing things flawlessly and perfectly where like an enemy's actions, like his attacks just seem slow. Like you're just like, wait. There's just nothing like it for me in recent past.
You can see the Matrix now.
Yeah, exactly. Right, there you go. Like I have understood. I'm walking the path now, you know, the path of Shinobi. But yeah, dude, it's just so like exhilarating. I freaking love it. And for that reason alone, I think Sekiro just like stacks up just so high for me on, you know, FromSoft's like sort of repertoire of games.